All right, this is lesson 10.4 of analytic geometry. This is a summary of the conic sections. So in general form, a conic is ax squared plus cy squared plus dx plus ey plus f equals 0. So this is the general form. If we want it to be a parabola, either a or c has to equal 0, but they can't both equal 0. But if one of them equals 0, notice that if c is 0, then we have x squared, which we know is a parabola. Or if a is 0, then c is a number and we have y squared, and we know that a y squared is a parabola. So we can look at the general form, and if we see that a or c equals 0, but not both, we have a parabola. We have a circle if a equals c, so if they're the same coefficient, but they're not equal to 0, then that's our circle. If a does not equal c, but we multiply them together and we get a positive value, that's an ellipse. And if we multiply a times c and get a negative number, then we have hyperbola. So let's look at some examples and determine if it's a parabola, circle, ellipse, or hyperbola. So x squared plus y squared equals 144. A is 1, C is 1. So A equals C, and they don't equal 0. So this must be a circle. In the second example, we have C y squared, but we don't have any x squared. So we have our C value, but our A value must be 0. So therefore, this one must be a parabola. In our next example, we have an x squared and a y squared, and our A term and our C term are not the same, but they're both positive. And we know they're not the same. They look like 1 in this, but we've got these fractions here. So we have to multiply the entire equation to get a common denominator, which then leaves us with coefficients here, which are not the same value. So A does not equal C, but when we multiply them, they're greater than 1 or they're greater than 0, which makes them positive. So this must be an ellipse. And the next example, we have x squared minus y squared. So our coefficients this time, A times C, they're both 1, but when we multiply them, they create a negative value. So this must be a hyperbola. In the last example, we have an x squared and we have a y squared, and A equals C because they're both 2 and it's positive. So therefore, A equals C, that must be a circle. So we can look at these equations and we can determine from the general form whether it's a parabola, a circle, an ellipse, or a hyperbola. Take a minute now to look at the summary in your textbook on page 981 through 982, and then we will do some examples together in the next segment.